All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Property Players Podcast, guys. We're talking all things real estate here, and today I have a special guest on with me. Him and I have been kind of chatting for a few months or so, trying to make this happen, and we finally made it happen. So I'm excited to bring him to you, Mr. Nat Wallen. How are you, Nat?
I'm doing great. Chris, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was my pleasure when we got a chance to connect on Facebook, right? Good old social media brings people together.
For sure.
We got a chance to chat a bit, and I know you have some special things going on, and you've been in the industry for a little bit. So I wanted to bring you on just to give you a chance to kind of chat a little bit more, introduce you to some of the community and some of the listeners. And we'll just go from there. So let's just jump straight into it. Now, tell me a little bit about you. You're down in South Carolina right now, but tell me the origin story. Where does Nat come from?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm in Charleston, so I'm on the coast, and I'll try not to go too far back, but just real quickly, in high school, I always worked for myself. I had a pressure washing service and a lawn service, and I would go out and wash people's windows. So I would basically go out and just make money. I never really had a job. I mean, I may have had a short job with Domino's here and there, but for the most part, growing up, I would go out and make my own money. And I studied art in college. I went into school really not knowing what I was interested in, and I had always drawn and painted and was just drawn to, kind of the creative side of things. And I got out of school going, okay, what am I going to do now? And I said, okay, I'm going to go into real estate. And that was back in 1995. And so I've been doing that ever since. And it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride. Obviously, it's tough when you get started, but I kind of got into a rhythm after a few years and built up a pretty good book of business, and basically, have been one of the upper agents, I guess. I hate saying top producer because that's very, kind of ego stroking, but I mean,
Gotcha.
but my company says I do well. I've had years where I've sold, over 100 houses with just one assistant.
Nice.
So I'm trying to keep shoes on the kids and food on the table, so,
Understood.
and I love doing it. So,
Yeah. What gave you that initial, so going all the way back, what gave you that initial thought to be like, hey, real estate's the way I want to go after you've bounced to a few different businesses as a kid?
it's funny. My dad was in real estate for a short time. He actually kind of transitioned out of that when cell phones came out, and he, not to go too far off into that world, but he ended up getting a cell phone tower. And but anyway, I had a very limited amount of exposure to the real estate industry. But I remember when I was, in college, I played in a band. I'm a bass player, a guitar player. And I remember going, man, making ends meet, this is tough. What if I could make like $50,000 in a year? And that was like this golden opportunity. Like, wow, what would I do with $50,000?
Right.
So what got me into it? It was really just I did work for a company for a very short time, maybe 6 weeks. It was a music warehouse type company.
Okay.
It's called Music Corp. And basically we would call on guitar centers and sell them strings and picks and any kind of musical thing you would need. And they were very kind of militant in their approach. And if you showed up 2 minutes late, they were like waiting at the door for you, and 30-minute lunch. And if you come back 5 minutes late, they're like sitting you down in the office. And I was just like, I cannot be held down like this. So I was like,
Absolutely.
I need to kind of be able to set my own schedule and not be under someone's thumb.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, all right, real estate, and I got it, and started calling for sale by owners basically, and things were much different back then. So
I
that was
was
not.
gonna say they had to be different back in the late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I had I remember the MLS books were being printed like it was the last month that they were being distributed. Windows 95 had just come out.
Okay.
So, I had like a pager, and like the I'm trying to remember all the phones I've had, but I remember sitting in this little cubby, and it was very different because people would come to me needing to know what was for sale, because the only option was go talk to a realtor. And we got like, fax information, very, very, you know, not a great MLS when I first started out, obviously.
Sure.
I mean, it just kind of like come to a computer out of books. But my role was pretty well defined. People would come to me, they would need to know about the houses for sale, and I would know about them.
Right.
And so my value proposition has changed pretty dramatically, because as you know, everybody has everything right in their pocket. Zillow, Trulia,
Yeah.
people know about houses before I do.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's been a little bit of a shift. It's gotten more convenient, because when I first started, when I'd go show houses, I would have to show a lot of houses,
Right.
20 at a time, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And there was no GPS, so I would have to get this map book, and I'd have to find every street and then go into the back in the index, and find where the street is, and literally plan my day for like 2 or 3 hours.
Wow.
And I'm driving down the road with the book, and you know what I mean?
Sure.
So things have gotten much more efficient and easier, because obviously I can just talk to Waze and it can tell me exactly where to go, and I'm going to get there. And on the buyer side, or the consumer side, they have everything for sale. So I only show like a few houses, and I
Right.
sell one instead of 40. So it's great. It's
How
great.
do you think that's affected today's agent, today's realtor? You got experience doing it the hard way, I guess we could say, right? The hard way, off of a map, off of a book, showing multiple 20 plus houses. But, people coming up that are 2, 3, 4 years in real estate right now, they don't have that experience. How do you think it's helped them or hurt them?
I think I don't know if it would help or hurt. I mean, all I can base it on is like what I had to deal with. But now reality is like, okay, we're on Instagram. So I think the challenge is, and I don't know if it's necessarily a challenge, but I think just the reality is that we have to create relationships with people, because the data is out there, right? And how do we set ourselves apart from all of the other people? And the reality is that if I know you and we're friends, or we have a good connection and you trust me, and well, then I'm the natural person, right? So it puts the relationship really up front, because the data is already happening in the background.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you see the same things when you were getting started out? Was it always the build trust, the relationship? How has that differed?
Yeah, that was a big part. But again, people would come to me because they would need to know about houses for sale. So when I say my business was a bit of a roller coaster ride, I would literally go and just get a few listings, 4 or 5 listings, and then the phone would ring,
Mm,
and I would get really good at converting the incoming call. I would go and sell. Yeah, I would either sell all of my listings, or I would sell them something,
got
because
it.
they didn't know about everything for sale. And so my listings would dry up, my business would kind of go down. I'd have to get a few more listings. The phone would ring. I'd start converting the incoming call again. So it was just very kind of up and down in that way.
Got
Uh,
it.
I then got into sort of a mindset of being focused on listings, because it's kind of like going to Lowe's. If they didn't have any product in the store, then I wouldn't go.
Wouldn't go.
you know, so,
Exactly.
so I tried to get the product in my store, and then people would come to me.
Got it.
And so, and
Is
then,
that strategy still working now for you? Is that still what you do?
well, yes, and yes, it is. I mean, that's a big part of it, because I can, I do work with buyers. Obviously, it's much different than it was before. But as far as leveraging my time, if I have 20 houses for sale, I can literally sell 3 houses on a Saturday without leaving my home.
Yes.
I could never jump in the car and do that. Get 3 or 4 buyers in the back seat, and it's like, all right, there's one. Which one are you going to take it?
Sure.
That doesn't work. you know.
Sure.
So production wise, you can be, and I don't think this is new news to anyone, but you list to last, and you can crush it if you have 100 properties for sale. You're going to sell 60 of them in a year. You know
Absolutely.
what
Absolutely. How did you get listings back? Like, so again, kind of going through the story, when you were coming up in the real estate industry, how were you getting listings then? Were you just, like you said, calling on the for sale by owners or
Yeah.
door knocking, flyers, the whole nine?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it was no door knocking, no flyers. I met a guy out of Spartanburg, South Carolina, which is kind of a little country town, and I was selling about 20 houses a year, and he's just this country guy. I went to a seminar in Atlanta, and this guy went from selling 20 houses a year to 75, and then 150, and then 258, and then 312. And it was all because of him changing what he did every morning.
Wow.
And so I learned from him. And so my day was pretty simple. I would come in the morning. I would stand up in front of my computer. I would have a list of people, expired listings and for sale by owner listings. And I would literally do what he calls the flip and turn, where I would have them all, in a stack, and I would just call people, flip and turn, and then I'd say, and I can't really, I don't want to share his scripts because they're his scripts. But look up Andrew Lacey if you're interested. Andrew Lacey Training, or the Lacey Group out of Spartanburg. He can teach you a lot. But so basically, I would set an appointment. I would prospect for an hour. I would set between 3 and 4 appointments for that afternoon on a good day, 2 on a normal day. And then I would literally take them and set those pages aside. And then after an hour, I would pick up all those pages. I would do the research and create a CMA and get my folders together. And literally I was out the door meeting people face to face, from 1 until 6 p.m. Every day. And when I first got into real estate, my broker told me, and this really kind of stuck with me. She said, if you're not either talking to somebody face to face or helping somebody write a contract or talking about a listing, then you're kind of not in real estate. You're unemployed. Mm-hmm. So I would use my mornings to go and get a job for the afternoon, or be employed in the afternoon, which is being face to face with people. And that's sort of has been I did it yesterday. I mean, that's just, I can't not do it.
Absolutely. People don't understand that there's certain things that are like the lifeblood of your business, or certain things that create the activity. And so that's good that, you learned that. A lot of realtors, a lot of people in many different segments, even me in the financial services space, I teach our team, and I try to coach people and tell them that, like, hey, listen, if you're not reaching out, like, we're a contact sport, right? If you're not making calls, if you're not touching, shaking hands, if you're not, doing all of those things, you're not actually doing any work, right? The emails, all that stuff, that's just busy work. But if you're not actually touching people, then, it's for nothing. So it's good that you learned that. Tell me about that mentor. Was he one of, like, would you say he's the most inspirational kind of mentor or person in your real estate career?
He has been one of them for sure. I coached with him for many years. And I've since, back in 2014, I've had a little bit of a shift in my goals and my plans, which, we can certainly get into. But he has been one. I recently also went to twice back in summer of last year. I met a guy named Michael Mayer. He wrote the 7 Levels of Communication. Let me show you. Yeah. He wrote this book, 7 Levels of Communication.
Okay.
And my real estate career has been very much a volume based. And, if you sell 100 houses a year, you're constantly just on a little bit on the hamster wheel. Right.
Right.
And I didn't really have a good system in place to really kind of keep in touch. There were just not enough hours in the day. I would write letters about twice a year, kind of like a family update letter.
Yeah.
A business update first. And this is something that Andrew Lacey taught me. He said, if you're going to talk with somebody, you should talk business first and then get into the niceties, which I think makes a lot of sense, because if I were to call you up and say, hey, Chris, how's your family? Did you travel last summer? How's your life been? Oh, by the way, do you need some real estate help?
Right.
Then the conversation is kind of soured,
less genuine.
Yeah, it kind of feels duped. But if I flip that and I say, Chris, hey, real quick, I want to give you a market update.
Mhm.
Here's what's happening. I know you would like to have your finger on the pulse in real estate, or, if I even call you and say, hey, Chris, if you know of anybody that I can help, let me know. By the way, how's your family? Did you travel?
Right.
It's just putting the business up front. So I think of it like the mullet, the business up front and the party in the you know what I mean? But I was getting to Michael Mayer. So he wrote a book, The 7 Levels of Communication, which is a great book. So you should definitely check it out. But it's all about building those relationships and not even having to ask for referrals, but actually becoming referable,
Mm.
which has kind of been a big shift for me because, getting on the hamster wheel and calling the FSBOs and the expireds and driving across town every day, it can be a grind. It's not very sustainable. But if you've got 300 people that love you and trust you and refer you,
Mhm.
then you're not out there competing and grinding the axe. So that's sort of the shift that I've been working on.
That's awesome. And I agree 1,000%. That's what social media is in a 2019 setting, right? That's what social media is. It's word of mouth on referrals. It's word of mouth on steroids,
Yeah,
right? Like that's what happens. It's you getting your brand out there, you becoming top of mind, people liking you, getting to know you, getting to trust you. Something that I coach people and I always tell them, transparency earns trust. Right. So for those of us that are honestly building something, whether it's real estate, whether it's financial services, any other business that could be, transparency earns trust. People have to know or feel like they know you or know who you are or what your family life is about. So then once that happens, then I love the fact that you said, then you can be referable, right? A
yeah,
lot of people want referrals, but they're not really referable. I don't know much about you. I'm not sure about your business ethics. I'm not sure about your life. I don't know you necessarily. I might know what you do, but I don't really know you. And so
that's right.
that's important. That's a big lesson, hopefully for a lot of the community or the listeners that you guys pick that up because that's big. Are you referable? Right? Would somebody want to refer you? I think is a big thing. Did you always? So you said you kind of switched and started thinking that back in 2014. You said.
Yeah, so I've been working on a project that I started in 2014. I met Michael. Basically the market collapsed in '08, and I kind of crawled my way out of that for a few
How
years.
did that feel? Like from someone in the industry at that time? Like take me through your thoughts, feelings, what was happening during that time.
Yeah, so like back in 2006, if I had a listing that didn't sell in like 2 days, I would think that I put the sign in the wrong yard. You know what I mean? It was the
Constant.
way, yeah, it was the way that it was. It was like, this is going to sell, be prepared. We'll get 5, 6, 7 offers on this house. I mean, it was super hot market,
Mhm.
as you probably remember.
Mhm.
And then 2008, you have 20 houses for sale. And it's like, where are the showings? Because
Right.
we didn't know that it was shifting under our feet. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
and then after a couple of weeks, it's like, what happened? Where are the showings? And then you start hearing of the bubble bursting and all the media and things like that. And it's like, you don't, I'm telling myself or praying that the media would stop talking about it because I felt like they had such an impact on whether it was going to burst.
Absolutely.
And I'm not an economist, but it felt like, wow, stop talking about it. You're going to make it real,
Yeah.
And-
Or make it worse, right? Like that's what the media does. Media blows everything up. It probably made it worse.
yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean, it made people kind of clam up and go, ooh, I shouldn't be looking at houses right now. Right.
Right. Right.
So it was really kind of like a year or so where, I went from, I think I sold maybe in '07, sold like 50 houses. In '08 or '09, it went down to 12, and
Wow.
it was a lot more effort to sell those 12.
Sure.
And then everybody kind of realized, all right, we're upside down. Then the whole conversation changed. Dealing with short sales. Are you familiar with a
I
short
am.
sale?
I am.
Yeah. So for the listeners out there, a short sale is basically, if trying to sell a property, if you owe 300 to the bank and you can only get 2, then you've got to go to the bank and say, hey, will you take less? Will
Right.
you take less than 300? And that process alone is really, really painful for sellers because it was a glut of problems And so here's what it looked like. It literally felt like, okay, I got to find a seller that's diligent, because the seller has to be able to write the letter, grab all the documents, prove their case. So it has to be a diligent seller that really wants this to happen. And then we get this big stack of papers, and then we deliver it to the bank, the short sale, expert or whatever. And then they've got stacks of paper. When they finally get to it, the whole package was dated and it was expired. So I had to go back to the seller 4 or 5 times and say, okay, fill out all this paperwork again. I mean, it was just kind of a vicious circle. So I would literally talk to buyers who would be interested in a short sale and say, okay, picture you wanting this house now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now picture you wanting this house in 3 months. Now picture you wanting this house in 20 months and not knowing whether you're going to get it. We don't know if we're going to get it now. It might happen in 3 months. It might be 6 months. I've had like 19-month closings.
Really?
Short sales.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So it was just a total conversation shift.
Yeah.
And then it's funny, the market came back in like 2011, 2012. It started building back up. And now I think we're probably, I mean, who knows, but I think we're probably at a plateau now. And I think that there are protections in place as far as, we're not going to, there are mortgage-backed loans, and, the stock market isn't, pulling the rug out from under us as far as I know, like it did before.
Right.
But it's like that bubble never happened. People are just like, I got to buy a house. I don't care, and I felt like during that time, you asked me how it felt.
Right.
And I think during that time, the money was coming in great up until then.
Right.
It helped me become a better consumer, because, money was tight and it was very stressful for family. My wife is the mom's, I'm the breadwinner. And so it helped me become a smarter consumer if there's a silver lining in all of that,
That's
just
smart.
to be a little more frivolous and sock a little more away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I see it today in dealing with a lot of people. Like you said, they act like 2008, 2009 didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. As if like we could not see that ever again, or that's not normal, or whatever the case is. For me, it's about just educating people and waking people up that like, hey, that really happened. And there were really, right. Like there were consequences that came from it. There were things that you had to get through. And now we're back at a place 9 years later, 10 years later, where things have been very good. So, but we always have to be aware of the market flipping over or something happening in the economy. And I don't think people are aware, or they've lost sight of it, or whatever the case is. Are you seeing it still today, like out in the industry?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I think a lot of people are, at least, the colleagues that have been in for as long as I have, I think people have kind of like a scarred but smarter mentality, where it's like, okay, like Gary Vee talks about, never being punched in the nose,
Right.
and I've been punched in the nose in '08. So it's kind of like always back there. But as far as new buyers go, or sellers, everybody, obviously sellers, they just want to get as much as humanly possible. Buyers want to get a house. I'm not here to talk people out of getting a home.
Right.
But when someone says, hey, do you think it'll go up? Well, I'm not allowed to say yes or no. I have no idea.
Right.
But I do have some history that I can show,
Right.
and talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I'm in a pretty good market. So even when the market was bad, we didn't go down to half price or anything like that. It was, we had a little fall off, but it was really just more of properties weren't moving. We didn't lose a lot of value here, but properties just weren't changing hands as much.
Got it. So then as you're going through your journey and you're more on the agent side, now I know what you've transitioned into. You now have more of a consumer product, I guess, for agents and the consumer, or explain a little bit about what you have going on now.
Yeah. So, I told you that I kind of grinded the axe, and when the market shifted, I kind of came back into the real estate industry. I mean, I never left it, but when things got to normal, I kind of started feeling like I need to do this differently. And I looked back, and after selling over 1,000 homes, I only had like maybe 75 people that I kept in touch with, 75 to 100. So I created a tech platform, which started back in 2014. Sorry, my phone's ringing. Decline that. There we go. So I created a tech company. My children are Bella and Ruby. Bella is my oldest, Ruby is my youngest, and they are girls, right? So I named it Bella Ruby. And it's a 4-part relationship. There are 4 tools in it. I'm working on a 5th now. And basically the primary tool is called Engage. And I sell you a home. I want to stay connected to you for the lifetime of your home ownership. I always want to have a reason to call. So I'm going to give you free software to help you manage your home. And what that does is it extends my value into your life cycle. And there's lots to it there. And then I've created and we were kind of talking about the shift, and my role early on was, hey, I was the gatekeeper. People came to me. Mm-hmm. Now I need to be a content provider, a content maker. And I have to I can't come out and I truly feel like people don't care about market updates. People don't care about my recent listings. They don't care about the sales. Only if they're buying or selling like right now. Sure. But what people do care about is the value that I can provide. So I look at it like, all right, what can I do that they can't get on the internet, that they can't find anywhere? So I've done a couple of things. Boeing recently, back in 2008, they were kind of like our lifesaver. They decided to build their Dreamliner here in Charleston. So that brought a bunch of jobs into our area, like thousands, right? And I happened to be in the right place at the right time, and I met the head recruiter for not Boeing, but for a different company that ultimately was absorbed by Boeing. And I said, okay, wow, I've got kind of a front door access to this company coming in. So what I did is I created a Google Earth video tour of Charleston. And so I thought I could give this to people that are moving from Everett, Washington. And so that was sort of my first foray into kind of duplicating my efforts on the internet and providing value first. And that kind of took off. So I ended up creating a library of content. I've got what to do on a Saturday tours, and a boating tour, and an obscure restaurant tour in Charleston, and a pretty comprehensive Charleston overview video tour. And so I basically use Google Earth, and I'm happy to share this. I actually have a report on how to build a Google Earth video tour, so I'm happy to share that with all the listeners. But basically, can I just show you my screen? Would you mind?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, let me just show you kind of what it looks like. All right, bear with me here. Okay. So this is the system that I created, but let me get into this. Is a content marketing solution. Nice. And let's see here. So I want to get to the video tour. It's just going to take a second. Yeah. So this is a Charleston overview video tour. And here we go. Yeah, so basically I start with I start with good content. This is a tour that I've created that basically gives people a complete
neighborhoods
guide
that are mostly
around
just
the Charleston area.
Mm-hmm. This is where you'll find the new.
And then people are like, wow, this is very helpful for me and my family. In fact, I've had people reach out to me and say, I've seen all of your videos. We're looking to spend up to $800,000. We love your videos. Will you be our realtor? And I don't feel like that happens with a lot of people. I feel like taking the steps, just like you're doing with this great podcast, I feel like taking the steps to put other people first is just like the best hook in the water that you can put out there. Because if you start with giving, then it just kind of comes back to you. And I think that's the kind of the economy that we're in. We're in a thank you economy where you have to give. Just like Gary Vee says, jab, 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 and then, right hook comes back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's one of the things that people miss, Nat, to be honest with you. I think the fact that you would bring up Gary Vee, you understand like the model
Yeah,
of, being a media company first, comma, whatever you do.
yeah,
When I heard Gary say that, like it was one of the things that just clicked in my brain. I was like, this is why everyone gets it wrong, because everyone tries to be the real estate agent
yeah,
and then think that they need to put out, some videos here and there. But if
yeah,
you switch and think it opposite, that you are the media company, that's what you're showing us here, that
yeah.
you've become a media company. And because of that, you've helped a lot of people on the back end and they've reached out to you, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Absolutely. I mean, it's just attracting people, and that's where the shift came. It's becoming that media company first. And would you mind? I'll try not to be too self-promotional here,
No, it's okay.
but but I'm super excited about this. So can I just show this to you real briefly?
Yeah, show us a couple of them.
Okay, yeah. So basically, what this is I created a content marketing library. So this is Pipeline.
Mhm.
So it does two things. First of all, I created it for realtors. So I created a 55 part journey, which is everything from before you're looking until after you buy your home. And so if I meet you and you say, hey, this sounds great, let's work together, I'm not ready for another 18 months. Well, then what I can do is I can share my knowledge with you, which I've created over a period of time. And these are just like little nuggets of information that are going to help me incubate you until you're ready. Right.
Yeah.
And so what you get is, a quick landing page and let me find one that's not, that doesn't have a video on it. Let's see. I'm guessing that. Let me just find one here that they might have.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm guessing this one doesn't. I've modified a lot of them. So out of the box, it comes with a background image and a headline and a subheadline and then bullet points. I wrote all of this content for real estate agents and loan officers. And out of the box, it comes looking like this. Bear with me. Which one was I on? Let's see. Here we go. Out of the box, it comes with just bullet points and a headline and a subheadline.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured, okay, how can we make it to where people can personalize it? So I created a teleprompter. I wrote scripts, and then so people can very quickly take the work that I've done and make it there. So if I record using the teleprompter, my whole screen will turn black. I hit the space bar, and then this script pops up. And oops, let me just stop that for a second. And basically, it records the video and it adds it to this. It adds my video to the landing page, and it also fills your YouTube account at the same time.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a geek here. I love building this stuff. But check this out. So this is sort of how the funnel works, though. So imagine coming from a place of giving, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're just creating this great content. Like, let me show you a better example here. So I recently sold a home that had some issues with a wild animal coming out of the crawl space. So it was chasing all of the workers out of the crawl space.
Got it.
And so we met this guy named Mr. Critter. And it was such an interesting meeting that I was like, I gotta make a video. So I made this video called Everything You Need to Know About Charleston Alligators, Snakes, and Real Estate, because a lot of people have questions about, like, what about alligators here, right? That's like a big question that we get. So this is a 21-minute deep dive video on snakes, alligators, what to do if you get raccoons, rats. I mean, it's just really, really interesting meeting, right?
Sure.
And so I put this out there, and I run Facebook ads to this. And I put this out there, and then so it positions me to be this guy that's like, because remember, I need to shift my USP. What is my unique selling proposition? Everybody already has all the homes for sale. Mm-hmm. So this is information that I can provide where people can get to know me. I can overcome objections about the area. And the cool part here is that people can request, they can get a deep dive and then get into my other campaigns. So I can, so people can basically tell me that they're a home buyer or a home seller or both. And then get into this, this dripping of content that I've already created. So it's kind of like the funnel is here.
Mm-hmm.
Start with community content. They identify themselves in this way as being a buyer or a seller, and then I'm consulting them until they get ready. So that's sort of what I've been working on.
That's awesome, man. Hopefully, like for those people that are just listening on audio, we're going to give you some links afterwards to make sure that you can get a chance to see all of this stuff that Nat has put together. But for those of you that are watching this, that's awesome, man. Like the fact that you've created something that literally is going to be able to add value and continue to engage your prospects is it's key. It's key.
Yeah.
That's exciting. So again, how long did it take you to put this whole thing together? And where was your mindset when you were putting it together? Did you know that's what you were putting together? It just kind of came out that way? Like, how'd it work?
Yeah. My wife is rolling her eyes right now. So it started out in 2014. I was just going to make a simple tool where you put in your address, and then I would tell you what your house is worth, and it would be a lead capture system, which is something that's pretty prevalent in the industry. You see them on pretty much every website now.
Sure.
And I kind of came to the conclusion that consumers, I'm not really giving anything to consumers with that, and there's just so much competition, nobody's going to pay for it, and it just didn't make sense. So I created I was talking to my developer one day, and I was showing him a page on my website, and I showed him a page that had all of my vendors on it. So I ended up creating, dumping the first plan and creating what I call the vendor network, which is sort of like your digital resume. Or your, digital Rolodex of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, as realtors, we're constantly connecting people,
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is let me just show you kind of a good version here. And I know that we've got listeners out there, so I'm sorry, but and again, I don't want to make this a Bella Ruby commercial, but I'm obviously, I'm very close.
You're passionate about your baby, literally and figuratively, right?
Yeah. So this is the dashboard that I'm giving homeowners. So, I showed you Pipeline, which is the content marketing solution, but when I sell you a home, I'm going to give you this free software or complimentary software to help you manage your home. And so I created a welcome video. So I went the day of the walkthrough, and 10 minutes before they got there, I recorded this video. And the idea is, and basically what it says is, look, this is not the end. This is the beginning. Your kids are 3 and 5. We're getting ready to close on your home. I'll be here when they're ready to buy their first home. This is just the start, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm getting them to remember not just me, but also what I was wearing the exact day of the closing,
Yes.
And then homeowners, this is a dashboard that basically this is a timer that shows them how long they've owned their home, different things like that. But the first tool that I created was the vendor network. So homeowners have access to all of my people. And so this is proven to be very valuable because I can walk into any business and say, look, a lot of people come into Charleston. I'm helping a lot of people, and I would like to help you build your business. So do you mind if I send you business?
Right.
And so the idea is I can send a plumber, for example, or all of my contractors to a buyer. They can flip through my Rolodex and see what I have to say about each of them. And then they can reach out and automatically connect with them. And the beauty of it is that it's basically me delivering the lead to the vendor. It's like, hey, good news, I got a new lead for you. I hope it works out. So it puts me kind of in the middle. And that was the first tool that I created. And then it just kind of grew from there. So yeah.
That's smart. Again, that's either way, right? You being a natural entrepreneur, understanding how to build something out. This was even a smart way to go about starting the whole referral process, the whole, right, adding value in places before you receive it. That is the model right there. So, I think what you have is awesome, Nat. I think a lot of people need to hear about it. I think I'm glad that, again, you came on the show to get a chance to educate people about it. And I think it's really helpful. What have your experiences been with it? Like, what have your results been? Have you seen people using it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I run an ad in my town that basically, a Facebook ad that basically says, I don't care whether you're buying or selling. I just want to help you be a better homeowner. Claim your free home management software. And I have a landing page in the system, and people, I'll show it to you. So people can basically opt in and give themselves free software. This is a video, and then they can fill out this form. And as soon as they do, they get their free software account. So it's sort of a digital farming tool.
Yeah.
That's working really well. And people are calling me and thanking me and just getting on my blog. And so I'm kind of doing things like that. And then this is available to realtors and loan officers. And I'm meeting a lot of people just all across the country that are excited about it. And there are a lot of tools here. There are 4 of them in total. And some of them are getting excited about the vendor network. Some of them are getting excited about pipeline and creating content, and others are, excited about giving software. So it's opened the door to a lot of relationships and meeting a lot of new friends. So it's been really, really awesome.
And that's what it's about in real estate. In most industries, it's about creating those relationships, shaking enough hands, providing enough value that people want to do business with you, and they want to talk to you, and they want your friendship and your relationship. So I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Where do you see it going? What's the goal? What's the vision for it, Nat?
Well, the vision is to become the preeminent relationship-based tool out there. But when I say that, I have to be really careful, because if I go back to what my broker said early on, was you're not in real estate unless you're actually face-to-face with someone. So this is definitely not a magic pill, but I think it's a tool that will empower us. There are a lot of people in our industry that are worried about Zillow taking over, and I'm sure you've heard those stories.
I was going to ask, that was actually one of the questions I had for you, is what's your take on Zillow and Redfin and all these companies that are trying to jump in the space?
Yeah, I feel like the genie is out of the bottle. I don't hate Zillow. There are a lot of people that have a lot of disdain for this thing that's happening. Mm-hmm. But it's, this whole opening up of our data back in, I think it was 2004 that it opened up, or 2002. Large corporations, multi-billion-dollar corporations have been formed as a result of us giving our data. And there's a lot of, like I said, disdain for that. But they've also made my life easier, because I only have to show 2 or 3 houses, right?
Exactly.
And so my positioning, though, is, okay, this has happened, and what do I need to do? And it's just like Gary Vee says, become the digital mayor and give them something of value, and start with value. In fact, the logo or the slogan of my company is "Start by Giving." And I actually trademarked that. I've done a lot of stuff in building software. If you're out there and you're planning on building software, reach out to me. I can save you a ton of time and money, and I've made thousands of mistakes. But the point is that just by giving and positioning yourself, we're talking Zillow, they've got the buyers' eyeballs. I'm not going to win that battle, right? But what I can do is I can be local, and they can't be local. And that's where Gary Vee's advice comes in, become the digital mayor. And that's why I'm building these Charleston real estate video tours and all of this thing that is attracting people to me and breaking down the barriers. And that's why I created what I've created. And so my goal, or the vision, is to just help people be local realtors. That's it, really.
And that's awesome. That is the thing that's going to take you to the next level. Again, I believe in it 1,000%, that you give to get, right? Whatever you're putting out there is what you're going to receive back. And the people like us that give value more than what we take, right? The whole 51-49 from Gary Vee, right? Just be givers more than takers. I think it's really going to help us moving forward. So to kind of wrap up the podcast here, give some of the listeners a couple tips. Nat, you have a lot of experience in the industry. You've been through a bunch. Talk to the person that is 2 years, 3 years into the industry, right? That's when it kind of gets, cushy or, at that place where like you're figuring it all out, give the listeners 2 or 3 tips of like what they should do to kind of hang in there or to kind of get their business to the next level.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I truly feel like it was really hard for me to get my first assistant. And someone gave me the advice of, well, first of all, if you haven't done so, take a DISC test. So take a personality test on yourself. And the reason that I say that is because it will give you insight into you, but more importantly, it will help you deal with people, because then you'll be able to recognize if you have an education on the DISC test. Then you can recognize if you're with a driver mentality person, or if you're with someone that needs to be really cautious, and it will help you communicate. Like, can you picture, the social person is, can you picture the parties you're going to have at this place, right? And then the careful person is, imagine your grandchildren, on that swing. Right. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And the driver is, look, I know you don't have much time. Here are the comps. Here's the deal. You should make an offer on it, right? So taking a DISC test will give you great insight. So that's tip number 1.
Got it.
Tip number 2 would be to, someone gave me the advice of, if you're thinking about getting an assistant, I get a legal pad and write down everything you do in real estate for like a week, just every single thing you do all day long. And then at the end of the week, look at that legal pad and go, all right, what do I absolutely have to do, right? And cross out everything that you don't have to do, like lock boxes and turning in contract paperwork. Right. And then hand that over to your new assistant and say, this is your job, and that will get you into the mindset of like, I'm doing dollar productive, only things that I can do, and that will help you delegate. And even though it's a little bit scary getting that assistant, the freedom that will give you to go out and be face to face with people, it will quadruple your production. There's no question about it. Thirdly, make sure to, and I sound like I'm preaching here, I apologize, but make sure to keep your eye on, your people are important. Right? Everybody you're dealing with is important. The people that you're showing property to, the people that are under contract, but also those important people are the next people that you can be helping, because you can get wrapped into a bad deal and it can suck the life out of you and it can close. And if it sucks the life out of you and you're not finding the next person to help at the same time, then your business will dry up. And that's that roller coaster I was telling you about earlier. So yeah, those would be my top 3 tips, I guess.
Awesome.
5 tips to give.
Those are great. And for all the listeners out there, hopefully you guys are writing those down. If you are in that ballpark where you're just starting off in real estate, or you're 2-3 years in and you're just trying to find the things that you need to do to go to the next level, I would definitely take those into consideration and say that, hey, those are some things you have to do if you want to be successful and get to a place like Nat is at right now. So
can I add a 4th?
Add a 4th one, Nat.
Okay. So if you have a bad things happen, right? Great things happen in real estate, but bad things happen too. Things turn sour. People can be sour. What I would suggest when you have something bad happen, make the conscious choice to not have a bad month, not have a bad week, not have a bad day, but have a bad 10 minutes. Just move on. You know what I mean?
It's tough for people.
Yeah. Those psychic vampires can suck you dry. So just make a conscious decision. I'm all right. This is terrible for the next 10 minutes. And then, key word that Andrew Lacey taught me is next. Move on. Next person I can help. Right.
It's a mindset. And it's funny. I just coached one of my guys saying the exact same thing, that he needs to understand how to compartmentalize and say, hey, I'm not going to let this, he basically had a call from his spouse that really kind of threw him off the edge right as we were about to get to work. And he was like, this is going to mess up my whole day. And I was like, can't mess up your whole day. We're just about to get to work. You got 5 minutes. We need to talk about it and let's get to work. Right? It's just about understanding like where your mindset is. It's going to dictate how well you do in a field like ours, where you have to go see people. You have to be in the right spirit. You have to be able to speak. And when your emotions aren't in alignment with kind of what you need to go do, you'll not have a successful day. You'll allow those thoughts and things to knock you off track. So it's a good 4th point. I'm glad you added it, Nat.
Yes, thank you. Hey, let me ask you this.
Shoot.
You've alluded to, I don't know a lot about what you do. You coach people, you have a team. Tell me about your day.
Yeah, so just real basic. I'm in financial services. My wife and I run an insurance investment company, but basically, I just teach people about money all day. Different from what the bigger companies, the Charles Schwabs, the Merrill Lynches, the Edward Joneses, a little bit different from what they do. They're dealing with normally top 10% of Americans, 10-15% of Americans. I'm taking a look at middle America, right? The other 90% of us that typically don't get the financial literacy, don't get the help, and putting in some real strategic things in place for them so that they can understand money. And again, the reason why I did the podcast is because I would be around so many people in real estate that I just felt as one of the community. I felt like I was a part of it. And then two, sitting down with so many people, you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't be surprised, that the number one thing when I asked them, hey, what are we looking to do in the next 5 to 10? The number one question is the number one thing is always, I want to buy a home. It's just, it's just the way that it is right now. And I don't know if it's a good thing, it's a bad thing. Most people aren't in the best financial place in order to purchase that home. So that's where I come in and try to educate. But I see that a bunch. And because of what I do in business, I've been around, right? Obviously I have agents. I recruit and train other agents in my business. But just being in the market of, right, small business owners and all types of things that I do, as that I'm looking for as clients, I just happen to step in the right circles. And when you get in the right circles, you learn, you listen, right? It brings you up. So I started coaching a few other small business owners that I would know, just on some of the stuff that we talk about, right? When Gary Vee is a foundation, and he has some different ways to think about things, most people don't adapt them. It actually gives us an advantage. The people that do listen and pay attention and put things into practice, it gives us a leg up. And there are not a lot of business owners out there that understand that whole media company first, whatever you do. And so I've started sharing that with people. And not to mention, I've done my own personal development and reading and all of that. So I have a level of knowledge. I've been punched in the mouth multiple times, right? Yeah. In life, in marriage and business, the whole nine. So when those things start to happen, you just feel like you have a story, feel like you have a little bit more to give to people. And when you come from a place like us, where it is about giving first and it is about the value first, I just try to find ways to be able to give. So that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I need to hook you up with a pipeline account. I will do that.
I was going to say, I feel like you might need to, like after we got off, I was going to talk to you about it anyway, because it's solid. It's solid. For the listeners though, tell everyone where to find you, Nat. Like, where can people find you? Where can people find, it's My Bella Ruby, right?
Yeah, the website is bellaruby.com.
Okay.
So BELLARUBY.com. Those are my two children, Bella and Ruby. And then real estate referrals. If you know of anybody coming to Charleston, South Carolina, I'm happy to help people. And obviously, your referral is generous. So send them my way, and we'll both, be able to put more shoes on our kids. So
that's what this is about.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So, thank you so much for having me on. This has been really a treat, learning about you and just kind of reflecting back. And if I can help anybody out there, real estate related or not, or if you're starting a software company, like I said, I've kind of been through multiple channels and ups and downs with that, and or real estate advice or whatever, just have a question, just reach out to me. My website for my real estate business is natwallen.com. That's NATWALLEN.com. And again, Bella Ruby is bellaruby.com. And if you want some free home management software, hit me up. I'll give it to you. It doesn't matter if you're in Charleston or not. I'm happy to help.
That's what happens when people want to give value. So, Nat, I appreciate having you on the podcast. And for all the listeners out there, all the community, feel free to reach out. You know where to find me. We want to hear your comments. Reach out to Nat. Obviously, he has a ton of information, a ton of value, a ton of resources to be able to give you. So for those of you that are in the market for that, make sure you reach out. But until next time, guys, I'm signing off of the Property Players Podcast. We'll talk soon.
Thanks. Bye.